Hello, this is another one of my YouTube videos, and as you can see, I have two honeycomb shaped ice cube molds that I have put in a tray. Now, with any new products that you purchase, always make sure that you wash them first to get rid of any residue, or maybe they've been contaminated while storing that you're not aware of. Now, I've already done a few videos with using these trays in the past. They are silicone, they're very soft, looked very structurally sound, but you imagine if you try to lift this up once it contained a liquid, the likelihood is it would spill out. So I have used a tray in order to put it in. And what I have over here is my slow cooker, which inside I am currently melting baby bell wax. And next to it, I have a little small melting pot, which actually came with a cookery game or piece of apparatus that's designed for children to use, obviously with parental supervision. So basically, it's the opposite of if, say, you did want to melt chocolate, which is what I actually have in here at the moment. Instead of using a bowl with hot water underneath on a hob, there's this option where you have this little tub with, which you could then pour the chocolate out, and basically you turn it on and plug it in, which is why it's not something I would advise for a child to use unless supervised. Now in here I've actually put some dark chocolate, and it should be 90% cocoa. Now, usually when you buy cooking chocolate, there are different types of cooking chocolate that you can purchase now out there. And each one, obviously, depending on the ingredients, because it's not, as a chocolate is not always made just with cocoa, there are other ingredients included, will depend on the melting point and also what you can then potentially do with that chocolate once it's melted. One of the examples of this is the Chocky Wocky Doodah, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. They have a company in Bristol, and they've done programmes on occasions on TV. And what actually happened was the chocolate that they used to make their products was actually classed as being illegal in the UK. Sorry, not in the UK, in the United States. So they were not able to import that chocolate. I don't know the reason why. They never explained why. They just said that the chocolate they used could not be imported into the United States for some reason. So they had to find a chocolate that they could then use in order to make a cake and a sculpture for Whoopi Goldberg. So it was very interesting to find how something as simple as chocolate, depending on certain laws and regulations, may or may not be able to be imported or exported into certain countries. Also, depending on, like I've said before, the chocolate and how it's produced, what you can actually use it for. Now, I've used the dark chocolate because it should have less sugar in, which means that it's likely to melt. As you can see, it is starting to melt in this, but hopefully not burn or sort of caramelize too much with the sugar contents being too high. Now, when people have things like a chocolate fondue set or a chocolate fountain on special occasions such as weddings, which I'm pretty sure is something that people are not going to be allowed to have at this moment in time due to COVID. What they actually do that maybe they don't tell you or you're not aware is they actually add oil to the chocolate. And that's basically to help with the viscosity. So what that basically means is it breaks down the chocolate to make it more fluid and to make it more liquid. So if you're wanting something to run like chocolate, like for example, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory had the great big water fountain. I believe in the movie they just used dye and it was coloured water. It wasn't actually chocolate. But if you did, for example, want that to be a real chocolate water fountain, then the likelihood is you would have to add other ingredients to that chocolate in order for enable it to flow. So usually what they will use is vegetable oil. I can't remember the percentage, as it's not something I've used in such a long time. And when I actually found out that they added oil to the chocolate to make it more viscous and to run, it actually put me off wanting to eat that kind of chocolate in the future because of the potential health implications. Not so much due to the chocolate, but obviously the added fat that is put in with it. So with this one, I haven't added anything to it because I don't want it to be too viscous. What I want is for it to obviously flow enough so that it can be poured into the honeycombs over here. I'm trying not to make sure you get motion sickness as I move the camera back. But what I don't want it to do is obviously burn. So at the moment, I don't think it would be pourable enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try it over here. It's very hard to actually judge where something is when you're looking at it through a camera, as opposed to in real time. Right, there you go. So, to be honest, that has actually poured quite well. I was quite shocked. Let me see if I can do another one before it starts to become solid again. Yep. Just about. Fill up another honeycomb there. And there you have it. So just put that back over here. Now, one of the things that I do like about this is it does actually heat up quite quickly. So again, it's not something you would want to leave on long periods of time. And you definitely wouldn't want to leave it unattended. Now, probably stirring it is something I need to look at doing. At the moment, all I did was put 6 little mini chocolates in there. There are other things you can now buy on the market. You can get things like chocolate drops. Again, cooking chocolate. Whereas these are off the shelf, just mini chocolates that I have purchased. And what I've actually found is that it took almost 6 melted chocolates. You can just see the sort of size they are there, to actually fill only 1 honeycomb. So as you can imagine, this is one of the reasons why a lot of the times when we buy things from the high streets, a lot of the food that we actually eat and purchase isn't always 100% pure. And one of the main reasons for that is obviously price point. And as we've all been aware, things such as chocolate, the cocoa plants, which chocolate usually comes from, are apparently in decline. So what they've ended up doing for weight and measures reasons is a lot of chocolate bars now are actually slightly smaller than what they would be. But at the same time, to keep the price point that the customer's happy to pay for, making chocolate bars smaller has been one of the ways that they've been able to achieve this. But at the same time, if you are wanting something, for example, that is going to be like 70% dark chocolate, so majority of it's going to be cocoa, then you are more than likely going to pay that little bit more for that product. So it's something to obviously bear in mind when you do buy things, especially with us in the UK now out the EU. I feel we're going to see a lot more changes to the sort of food products, especially that become on the market. And I think you'll probably find that if you were to read the ingredients on the back of some of maybe, I don't know, something you've brought for years and years and years and not really thought about it, that the likelihood is that some of the ingredients may have changed. One example of this is obviously due to what they call the sugar tax, where some products now, instead of using sugar, they're to like add flavour and things to products, they've used flavourings or artificial sugars and sweeteners. again, you can now make sugar not from necessarily sugar cane. You can use something that's called sugar beet, which can kind of explain why certain sugars are now produced in the UK. Sorry, I'm just eating one of the chocolates here. And again, what a lot of people have actually said when they started removing certain ingredients from items like iron brew, for example, and even Ribena, which used to be as natural as possible. People have now said that because of the added artificial sweetness and flavours, which they can actually taste, that they no longer wish to purchase those products. So at times, there is that question, can you retrain the brain to eat something or drink something that maybe you're used to by adding artificial sweeteners and enhancers to make it more palatable, and to try and trick the brain into eating something that may potentially be healthier for you by adding a chemical enhancement. And like I've noticed in the past, when things have had artificial sweeteners in, I've known the difference straight away, because sometimes it is like it's a chemistry set at the end of the day. They don't always get it right. So sometimes it is obvious that artificial sweeteners and enhancers have been put into foods. So again, it's one of those things to think of when you do go shopping. If something is cheap, why is it cheap? If something is expensive, why are you paying more? And just because something says that it's 100% organic or that it's organic doesn't necessarily mean that it is. So I would always recommend, if you have time, to read the label. So thank you very much, and I will continue to do a little bit more blogging later on today, and just going to see if I can pour one more of these now that I've added a little bit more into the... Just try and finish that one off. Nope. But as you can see, it is actually quite difficult to pour because of the thickness of the chocolate. So like I said, the chocolate I have used is 80% cocoa. I'm trying to not do any product placements with a lot of my videos as best as I can. So something like this is very time consuming. I mean, this video is just over 12 minutes, so you can see how long it's taken me just to literally fill 2 of the honeycombs. So that's like almost 6 minutes per comb, sorry. So in a way, this would be a good activity to do with children, but at the same time, the way I look at it with my own kids who are still under the age of 10, anything that's going to take longer than 20 minutes, forget about it, because they're just going to lose interest. And what you don't want to end up doing is having to clean up after an activity that maybe hasn't gone to plan. So something like this would be probably more ideal for an older child, whereas making something like Rice Krispie cakes or Nest cakes, something with cereal and chocolate on a much larger scale, so that basically the cooking time of mounting the chocolate would be quicker, would be more fun. Whereas this would be more like of an experiment that you may say do with an older child, where you could say get something like a timer, like this one, for example, and say, okay, we're going to do an experiment. We are going to see how long it would take to melt some chocolate that is at 80% cocoa in this small little bamboree, I would call it. And again, this is something potentially that people could even do as an experiment for, if they were in education as well. One of the things I do remember doing actually as a child was that we had to roast a peanut, and we had to time how long it took for one single peanut to burn. So yes, it was done in a classroom. We weren't just allowed to do it anywhere. And it was amazing, because what we actually found was it didn't necessarily matter how big or small the peanut was, So some of us got the largest one we could find in the bag, and some of us got the smallest that we could find in the bag. But it didn't actually affect how long it necessarily took for the peanut to burn, because it wasn't exactly so much the peanut, it was the amount of oil that the peanut actually contained that helped to decide as to how much time it would take to burn that single peanut in order to kind of release that energy and create heat. So it was a very interesting experiment to do. So again, anything scientific, maybe a little bit messy, would be ideal, especially during the summer holidays, at home on rainy days, or even if, heaven forbid, due to the way everything's going at the moment, the Boris Johnson decides to have another lockdown and basically says, right, I'm sorry, during the summer holiday, everything's going to close. So thank you for watching,